Welcome to this week's installment of Reading with Robin, your number one destination since 2002 for insightful author interviews and discussions on everything literary. And with no further introduction, your host, Robin Call.
After all these years, I am thrilled to have Lisa Jewell on the Reading with Robin program. Her brand new book, The Family Upstairs, is so good and such a thriller, and I loved it so much, and I am thrilled to share it with you today. Lisa is the internationally best-selling author of 16 novels, including New York Times bestseller, Then She Was Gone, as well as I Found You, The Girls in the Garden, The House We Grew Up In. Her debut novel, Ralph's Party, was an instant Sunday Times bestseller, and more recently her books have become number one bestsellers in Canada and the UK, and her novels have sold over 2 million copies across the English-speaking world. It's been translated into 16 languages. Lisa lives in London with her husband, 2 daughters, and we are hoping for an awesome connection. We already have one off air. Welcome to the show, Lisa Jewell.
Oh, hi there. Thank you for having me.
You scared me. I'm like, what happened to Lisa? Lisa. There she is, and we
I'm here.
we have copies to give away, and they will be posted on the Reading with Robin page. You can also find Lisa all over social media, where she tweets at Lisa Jewell UK, also on Instagram at Lisa Jewell UK, and on Facebook at the Lisa Jewell author page, and see all of her gorgeous books. Lisa, this book was such a treat, and I was truly sad when I was finished with it. I was happy because it was great, but I was sad because I missed it. I loved it so much.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I bugged Ariel for so long. I'm like, when am I interviewing Lisa Jewell? When does this work for Lisa Jewell? And it was so hoping to be able to host you. I'm sorry?
Here we are on a Tuesday in September, and it's happening.
There we are, and the book is out November 5th, I think. I think it's November 5th.
November the 4th.
Oh,
November the 5th.
Okay,
yes.
So it's out November 5th, and it is a must-read. It is everything I love to share about books. It's got fabulous characters and interesting storyline and exotic locations to me, and also just this idea of like who was it, what happened. It's just such an amazing mystery set in different time periods. I just couldn't have loved it more. It's fabulous. And one of the book clubs, we were talking the other night, and they picked their books the year ahead, and everyone was like, we want to read The Family Upstairs. Someone just begged me for an early copy, in fact, and I was like, it's not out yet.
Did you tell them to wait? You're going to have to wait.
You just have to be patient to see what happens. Yeah. Where did so you such a prolific writer, and the stories are, I mean, people, your fans are everywhere. Where did this story start for you? The nugget of the idea for The Family Upstairs.
Yeah, well, it really was a nugget. It was a fleeting glimpse of someone, in fact, that inspired the whole story. I was on holiday with my family in the south of France, and we were having lunch in a beachfront restaurant, and it was like a members' beach club, and they had a shower block behind the restaurant that their members could use. And I saw this sort of youngish woman, very, very tanned, very thin, very anxious looking, running down the boardwalk to these showers, holding a child's hand in each one of her hands, dragging them behind her. Clearly she wasn't supposed to be using the shower block. She was not a member of the beach club. And there was something about her. She just looked like she had a story, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. So essentially, I wrote the whole book about her, for her. And so I saw this woman, as I say, I felt like she was escaping from something, and that got my imagination going. What might this woman be escaping from? And I thought maybe she was escaping from something that happened to her in her childhood, in England, in London, in, say, a mansion in Chelsea overlooking the Thames. So then, yeah, and it just sort of built up layers and layers and layers, this idea based on this random woman I'd seen for literally 2.5 seconds 2 years ago on my summer.
Wild? Oh, my God. Like,
I know.
She has no clue that she inspired this book.
No clue whatsoever, unless she listens to a lot of podcasts. And
I hope she's listening, Lisa. I love that where an author is always thinking you don't know where your ideas are going to come from. And as you were saying, you were there on holiday, and you glimpse this scene, and your imagination takes over. I mean, I just think that is the coolest thing. I could talk about that for 2 hours straight. It's so wherever you go, is it distracting to be you? Are you always thinking and like, what is that?
To be entirely honest, these moments don't come to me very often. They're very rare. They're like gems falling out of the sky. I'm not one of those who goes around with pockets full of ideas the whole time, head rattling around with things I want to write about. I have one thing, and when it lands in my head, this is why I have to paint it up with layers and layers and layers, because I have to make it work, because that's my idea. I have to somehow find a way to make it into a book. So, I don't go around.
Did. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
I walk around seeing what to write about them. It's very rare.
Wow. Well, when it happens, boom. So, and this woman that you see with the 2 children who's sneaking in to use the showers, her character talk about who she becomes and where that...
Yeah, so the connection between all 3 storylines is this huge mansion in Chelsea overlooking the Thames. All we know about Lucy, who is the character that was based on the woman I saw in the south of France, is that she's British, but she somehow found herself homeless in Nice in the south of France, basically sleeping on the beach with her 2 small children and her dog. We also know there's some vague backstory with her and London and something that happened to her when she was a child, which we suspect might have something to do with the other 2 storylines. Yeah, Libby is 25 years old. She's every woman. She's just living a quiet life in a quiet town just outside London. She's selling kitchens for a living. She was adopted as a baby. She knows that on her 25th birthday she's going to get something that's being held in trust for her by her birth parents, and she has no idea what it was. And then she finds out on her 25th birthday that she's inherited an 8-bedroom mansion in Chelsea.
Nice. Happy birthday to her.
Absolutely. And then the third storyline is about a young boy called Henry. He's quite a prickly young man. He lives with his socialite parents and his younger sister in, you've probably guessed it, an 8-bedroom mansion in Chelsea. We first meet him in 1988 when he's about 10 years old. He's had a fairly pleasant upbringing, but his mother is having some sort of crisis. She's not satisfied with her socialite lifestyle, and she's looking for something more, and she fills the void in her life by inviting strange people into her mansion to come and live with the family, and that's where his childhood really takes a big nosedive, and that's where the story really starts.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And I'm on the phone with Lisa Jewell. The Family Upstairs is her brand new, do not miss, awesome novel. And it just got curiouser and curiouser with these people who come in, and also the idea of like what's missing in a life that allows for that possibility to take hold, where I'm reading it going, no, don't let them in, or these people are nuts, and deterioration of life as they know it. And just this idea of like what's real, is this happening, and hello, is anybody paying attention to me for these children? So it's just wild. And
that was actually, for me, that's part of the reason for choosing this huge mansion in Chelsea and these terribly rich, sort of empty-headed people, was the idea that it was the anonymity that's suggested by a big house with windows facing out over the Thames. You're not on a street. There's no community. Nobody really cares about you. It's very transient. The rich people come, the rich people go. The houses sit empty quite often. They're just bought as investment properties. Terribly rich people from other countries. So that was what kind of allowed it all to happen, was the fact that nobody was looking at this family and their big blank windowed mansion, which is exactly why I chose that location.
It was just, I would love to like have book club in this place. Was it based on a mansion that an actual one, or an amalgamation?
Well, I knew I wanted it to be Cheyne Walk, which is this big row of houses that faces the Thames in Chelsea.
Okay.
But I didn't know. I didn't have a specific house in mind, so I'm a very lazy writer that I am. If I don't have to get up off my backside and go and look at something, if I can do it from my kitchen table on Google, I will. So I just did a Google image search for houses on Cheyne Walk, and this one came up. And it actually has its own Wikipedia page because it's had some quite illustrious people living in it over the years.
I love that. The backside, called like the Backside Research by Lisa.
Yeah,
Jewell. I think that's awesome.
I always have these grand ambitions about how I'm going to go off and research places that I want to write about. You mentioned I Found You earlier, which is set in a northern seaside town in the UK. And I, for weeks and weeks, intended to get on a train and go up to the north and visit a seaside town. And I never did it. So in the end, I just had to sort of make it all up and look at Google Images. And I am the laziest writer.
I love it. The laziest writer of all, the laziest but most fabulous. I think that whatever works, and in fact you did research the beginning of the book when you were on holiday. You just didn't know it was a research trip. So there you are, not so lazy.
Good point. Thank you.
Well, and then also, you're writing these books. Here I am giving you an excuse, but you're writing them. There are authors I know who exploring and just visiting these spaces for 10 years and finally get to the book that takes 5. So I like your method. It works very well.
Yes.
And
Yes, it's very economical with my time. Yeah.
Right. Yes, the time and also, I mean, it's just
Sorry, carry on.
No, that's I'm carrying on. That imagination, it's very real, and you draw this whole world. So while going and visiting, I'm sure is lovely, like you say, the economy of time.
Yes, and also if you've only got a photograph to go on, or you've only got a glimpse of a woman for 2.5 seconds in the south of France, that gives your imagination a huge vacuum in which to function, because you've got nothing else to go on. If I'd spent a whole day up in a seaside town, I'd have spent hours writing descriptions of things I'd seen, and it would have all got, I think, way too laboured. Whereas if you're making it up from the tiniest grain of something, then your imagination can just do all the work for you, and that's obviously when you're to that. That's all the fun life. Well, that's not true. Lots of writers say they like the research better than the writing.
Yeah, lots of writers make stuff up too when they're talking about what they enjoy. So I often wonder, is that really the story? It becomes the story, but who knows? However it works, because this is such a journey, a treat. It's like I said, it's everything I love about reading. I was absolutely lost in this story and entertained and just so curious about what was going to happen. So I was completely lost in the book and fascinated by these characters, and I just couldn't wait to find out. I sort of was guessing how they might be connected, and the mystery of the connection between Libby and her 25th birthday, and how Henry and Lucy, where that connection was. And how do you as a writer figure out how much information to give the reader without giving away? I don't understand how that happens.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly how that happens. It's because I don't know how other writers do it, but I managed that by probably not knowing much more than the reader knows at the time that I'm writing, because I really go into a book quite blind with a few vague ideas about how things are going to pan out, and I write 1,000 words a day, and I'm often surprising myself every day with the twists and turns that I didn't know the story was going to take. So I knew, for example, that Libby, this isn't a spoiler because we know this, that Libby's parents had died in mysterious circumstances in the house in Chelsea.
Yes.
But really did not quite understand how that had happened. Was, I knew there was some foul play involved, but it wasn't until I got to writing the closing chapters that it really all fell into place in my head, like how it happened. It happened. And we also know right at the beginning of the book that the teenage children of the socialite couple, so Henry and his sister, have been missing for 25 years. I didn't really know how they'd gone missing, where they'd been, what they'd been doing. So there was
what had they been up to? Right.
So I'm kind of peeling back the layers at the same time as the I'm very, very much not that far behind or far ahead of the reader while I'm writing, which I think is, I don't know if you'd call that a skill.
I say it's a skill. It's a strategy and it's a method, and clearly clearly it works. And I am talking.
But I'm not. It's with a notepad. Sorry, I'm not sitting there with a notepad and writing down what's going to happen in chapter 8. Because I have no clue until I get there.
Exactly. So you're not right. So you're not sketching out the whole book. There's not a complete outline, and you don't know how the beginning, you don't know how the ending is going to pan out when you start, which I love. So it's a journey for you too. So you're telling yourself the story. You get to, not only are you entertaining all the readers, but you get to entertain yourself at the same time. And after all, you're doing all this work. So I think that makes perfect sense. And we're talking to Lisa Jewell. The Family Upstairs is her brand new book. Go to lisajewellbooks.com and find out more information about all of Lisa's books. And you can follow her on Twitter and on Instagram. Find her on Facebook. And I read somewhere that you began writing you were on a bet. That's true?
It is. Absolutely true. I still can't quite believe the tangent my life went off on because of a very, very random drunken conversation I had when I was 26 years old. But yeah, I was secretary. I didn't really have any ambition or direction in my life. I was actually at a point in my life when I was secretly hoping to marry someone rich, so I wouldn't have to worry too much about what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And then I did a creative writing course just as a young girl about town. Wouldn't it be fun on a Monday night to go and do something creative? And then I was a secretary. Lost my job as a secretary, and had this drunken conversation with a friend in the middle of the night about what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to start temping. And she said, couldn't you use this? You've lost your job. Couldn't you use this as a moment in your life to change the direction of your life and do something completely different? And she said, is there something you've always secretly wanted to do? And I found myself saying something I hadn't thought since I was 8 years old, which was I'd like to write a book. So she made me put my money where my mouth was, and told me
that.
Oh, amazing! I still can't quite imagine where I would be now if I hadn't had that conversation, because it wasn't like I wasn't one of those people who'd always wanted to write a book. I wasn't one of those people who had a mad, insatiable desire to be published. It wasn't part of my psyche. So I have no idea if I'd have ended up somehow being a published author without that conversation, but I often feel I wouldn't have been. So massively life-changing moment.
That is huge. I love those kinds of moments, and I'm so glad that I asked that. I read that somewhere, and I just thought that was great. So it tells you to pay attention to late-night drunken moments. Do you remember what you were drinking?
Oh, it was 4 o'clock in the morning by this point. I would imagine I'd been drinking pretty much everything.
That is just, I think that is amazing. And clearly, you're the kind of person that's open to things, or you follow through. I mean, there's been I love the stories of things where you just can pinpoint where everything changed and how an idea came and how you followed through. I can think of 2 other authors. One talked about a late night. It was Susie Gilman, and it was Undress Me in the Temple of Heaven, and she was with her friend from college, and it was late one night at International House of Pancakes where they decided to eat many pancakes in many nations. And she's one of my favorites, and her books are all fabulous. But that was that story. And Ellen Herrick, Forbidden Garden, her family was going skiing. And she lived in the UK for quite a while. And I think when they all went and the daughter said, what are you going to be doing? And she was, or said something like, or dared her to write a book, I think, while they were away. And that's how Forbidden Garden started. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. You have to be mentally open to moments like that in your life. You have to, I don't know, you have to have the headspace to absorb it and see it for what it is, as an opportunity. I'm quite lucky that I even remembered the conversation the next morning, given that would have been funny. I've had a life-changing conversation and then not remember it the next morning.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, I love those little pivots in life that just, you don't know they're happening until,
just amazing. But now, like, when you saw the woman with the 2 children, you knew, like, there you got that idea. So you knew you had something like that. You weren't probably as wasted in the afternoon at a lunch, as you were.
No, I think I'd had a small glass of sparkling wine or something. No, definitely wasn't wasted.
I just love that. Now, did you dedicate the first book to her, or one of them?
I most certainly did. Well, in fact, I dedicated it to her and my husband, because my husband.
Yeah, you gotta.
So I got 9 rejection letters for the novel that I started writing as a result of that conversation, and then I got a letter from a literary agent saying that she would like to take it on, which meant that I'd have to write it. At which
is that right?
The laziest writer in the world, I said, "How the hell am I supposed to write a whole novel? I've got a job, I've got rent to pay, and my husband, he wasn't him, he was boyfriend, said." What do you mean you're not going to write it? You've got a letter from a literary agent saying they'd like to take you on. So he said, why don't you come and move in with me? Then you won't have to pay rent anymore.
Oh, that's so romantic.
So he got a big thank you in it as well. So, yeah, people in life can sometimes really sort of give you the wheels to move you about if you let them.
Yes, if you're open to it and you let them, and what could you say to him? I mean, you can't refuse that great offer. Yeah. And like you said, you get this literary agent, which is no easy feat, but with the rejection letters, which, writers want to hear about that because there is always so much more to the story, and it's part of that journey, but that you kept going, and then you had no rent, and there you go. So that is,
yes, absolutely.
People must love hearing that story. I'm sure authors who, you get down on, is this book ever going to go anywhere? And then there are people who have just always wanted to write. That's just their passion, and it's, there are so many different ways to that goal. And so I'm sure people love hearing your stories.
Yes, it goes down very, very well. And I think there's also a misconception as well for a lot of people who want to be writers that you have to have connections, that you have to already work in publishing or be a journalist. And I think there's a lot of hope in the fact that I had nothing to do with the publishing industry whatsoever. I hadn't done a degree I didn't even do a degree. There you go. That's another thing to give people hope. I didn't even go to university.
And I'm sorry, it's a little crackly. So you were saying about giving people hope?
Yeah, the fact that I didn't go to university, I don't have a degree, I was working as a secretary. So all of those things.
Well, I would say what that adds up to is something that I say all the time about writing, is that the author needs to be talented, creative, and have a story to tell and be awesome. And so that, to me, trumps all the other stuff. Like, there are so many books that are, like, precious, or they take 20 years, and those are not the books that I ever really read. There's always an exception, but it comes down to talent and knowing that, having the story inside you and working hard. And that's really what it comes down to, I think. And so I love the story, and I will be sharing it. People love to know all the different ways around.
You've got a new anecdote.
Yes, I do. I love that. I'm putting the Lisa Jewell anecdote on the list.
International House of Pancakes.
You've got
the skiing holiday. You've got the International House of Pancakes. The skiing holiday.
Yeah.
And now you've got mine.
I've got, yes, you've rounded out my trifecta of anecdotes. And we're talking about this brand new book, The Family Upstairs. Visit lisajewellbooks.com, and we have copies to give away, so go to Reading with Robin on Facebook, and that's where we'll be giving them away. I want to go back to the first character in your book and the dog, and there's a lot of pup love, and I see on your on Instagram, so I have to know about the critters in your life.
Yes, my menagerie. Yeah, so I have my. What order shall I do them in? Size order, smallest first.
Sure.
I have 2 guinea pigs. I have my 2 guinea pigs, Sugar and Coco, who are. If you've never connected with a guinea pig, you really should because they're very special. And I have my 2 cats. You had guinea pigs.
We did. Oh yes, we had Mambo, Keisha, and there was one that didn't last very long. But we had those 2, and I loved them terribly. They were really wonderful family members. I don't know
what it is about them. They're ridiculous little things, but they just open up the heart in a very strange way. Can't quite work out what the guinea pig magic is, but it is there.
They are.
And then I've got my cats. I've got my 2 silver tabbies, Jack and Millie. I've got Jack. Jack is lying right next to me at the moment, fast asleep. Yeah, the best. And then I've got my dog, Willow, who is 4 years old, and she's a little Dutch Spaniel, and she's the love of my life. She makes me happy every minute of every day. Yes.
Aren't they? They are the happiest. And how do they get along? How does the whole family pack get along?
The family pack gets along with that. We have to keep the guinea pigs very safe because I'm pretty sure that Jack, Millie, and Willow would all eat them given half a chance. So we keep them very, very firmly away from the other mammals. And the cats and the dogs, they're not friends, but they're not enemies. They just coexist. You know, they can sleep on the same surface together quite happily, but they don't snuggle up or anything sort of Instagram friendly like that. But
that's what I meant, right? Do you have any of those? I noticed them all with different pictures. That's so. I know.
Exactly.
That's the goal, after all, right? Is it Instagram-able? That's right.
Exactly. Yes. When are you cats going to snuggle up with the dog so I can get a good shot of you? But no, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. So. Otherwise, you have to Photoshop it and create the fiction, which, in fact, is what everybody's doing anyway. So it all works out. But I immediately, when I see a dog in a book, I hope everything's okay with the dog. I mean, that's the most important thing. And there was a lot to that story about moving the dog around and
getting him a passport thing. And absolutely.
I know. I read this book maybe 6 months ago. So some of the little, not little, but some of the, parts that at the time I probably should have been taking notes, but I do remember that with the passport. And there was, other passport issues. And some great offing of characters and all sorts of mayhem ensues. It's just a romp. I loved it. I am so excited to share it with my readers, and it's Lisa Jewell's The Family Upstairs. I loved it. I was breathless in parts reading it. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so excited. Now, I need to know what you're working on and favorite books that you've read recently.
Okay. Well, I'm working on my 18th novel, which it's got a working title of The Man at Number 12, and it's about a family who've just moved into a nice street in Hampstead, which is the posh area of North London near where I live. And there's a slightly creepy man who lives opposite them who gives them all the heebie-jeebies a bit. And then there are also a string of sexual attacks in the area, and then something really, really, really bad happens, and he's arrested, but it wasn't him. So it's a sort of, it's an injustice. And then, I'm terrible when, and you know what? Do you know what? This is a terrible thing to confess to, but I haven't unpacked my suitcase since I got back from my summer holidays. So what I can actually do is open my suitcase right now and tell you exactly what I read on my holidays because they're still in there.
That's so awesome. So I'm helping you unpack. I'm working the...
Well, you're reminding me. You remind me that I've still got a suitcase full of summer dresses and bikinis. Right, so I read Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman, which I think is it's a Reese Witherspoon book club pick or something.
Yes,
and
I saw that.
I've read it.
I haven't read it yet, but I have it. I have it here. Yeah, it's good.
Amazing. It totally lives up to all the hype. And I also read Three Women by Lisa Taddeo or Taddeo.
Yes, that was wonderful. I read that. Yes, I read Three Women.
Absolutely gripping. And then I read some books that I don't know if they're out in the US. S.K. Tremaine, he wrote The Ice Twins. I don't know if he's known. Anyway, so yeah, it's his new novel. It's called The Assistant, and it's about a sort of couple of years in the future when all these home assistant apps have taken over people's houses, and it's a slightly dystopian sort of what would happen if Alexa sort of went turned bad.
I think she has already turned bad. I don't know how far in the future this is. Maybe like, it's that, life imitating art. But exactly. That sounds great. I will look for that. Thank you.
It's brilliant.
I love that. I always have to know. I like to know what everybody's reading. I like literally talk to random people and say, what are you reading? I look like a reader. I've done that.
If you see someone on a train and they get a book out, desperate, and they hold it on their lap and you want them to lift it up so you can see what it is.
Oh, always. I've tapped, I've gone over, I wait to make slight eye contact and then I just jump right in. And I've done that many times and had some really cool conversations. And in Rhode Island, if they're local, then they wind up coming to events, which is really the best because I love
there you go.
Yeah, my audience is walking around everywhere, so I'm like, you're a reader, you're fair game. So
reeling them in.
Absolutely, everybody's welcome, and nobody is safe for my advances, my literary advances, and it's what I love to do. So thank you for unpacking those and letting me know. It was a really big summer reading season, and now we're into the fall. And there's nothing like the fall books coming out. And I'm excited to hear about your upcoming book. And I'm thrilled to be sharing The Family Upstairs. Reading with Robin, listeners, do not miss this book. It's just, I can't wait to talk to people about it once they've been reading it here. I know it's out in the UK. Like, when did it come out in the UK?
It came out on the 8th of August, and it went straight into the fiction charts at number 1, I should just say.
You should say congratulations, as well it should. It's fabulous, and I'm so excited, and I like when books come out, that it's out there, so I was, checking out what people were writing and posting about and the different covers and all of that. So it's, it's really fun. It's bookish fun and what I love to share. And it was such a pleasure having you on the show, Lisa. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Oh, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. I've really loved our conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's installment of the Reading with Robin podcast. As always, our full-length podcasts will be available right here on robincall.com. We appreciate your support and look forward to having you over next week when we chat with our next featured guest. Have a great week and happy reading.